but also about the struggles I've had in the last few years with like the fatigue I feel sometimes when I'm reading an actual physical book, or when I have too many things to do at one time and I don't have like the time and space to actually read the book or to finish it. So that's what this video is gonna be about. Hope you will enjoy it. Let's get into this video about reading and about books. So, reading has always been a pretty big part of my life, and I love reading and I love stories and storytelling, and it's been fascinating for me ever since I knew what a story is, I guess. So, probably since I could comprehend it. So, I love when my parents or like someone like that would read me like fairy tales and stories also in kindergarten, and then when I started reading myself, and one of the first books where my parents read me about were Grimm fairy tales, and I always found it very fascinating the way those stories were like built, and it was so like interesting as a child. And then when I was like 5, I've got like cassette tapes. So yes, in the 90s I had cassette tapes. So from Harry Potter, and they were like really thick. So like the whole book were on like 6 cassette tapes, and then you had to turn the cassette tape and like roll it up with like a little pencil and stuff. It was amazing. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you missed out because it's great. I love cassette tapes. I should buy a cassette tape recorder because I love that feeling actually, and I probably still have them somewhere. But I digress. This happens sometimes with my ADHD brain, so I'm sorry. Might cut this out of the video or shorten it. Anyway, this is about reading, not about cassette tapes. So first I want to make this video because in 2020, I was like, okay, now that I'm like lots of times at home, lots of different lockdowns and like quarantines and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, I can read books. I have more time for that, and I don't have to like go anywhere, and I don't have to do. I don't have things to do, and I don't have people to see or like places to go, right? But that was kind of the problem because especially in the first lockdown, like in the middle of March, and everything was like really kind of scary and new. I was also not living at home or with my family or with like people I really knew that well. And I actually moved just to Munich for an internship, and I moved in with new people, which I didn't really know a lot. So I didn't know a lot about them. They didn't know me at all. I had just moved in when it was the lockdown, like literally 2 days or something after the lockdown, or like a week. I moved into a new place, which was not great actually. Timing was very bad. So I was like, okay, now I can like read because I have like lots of downtime in my home office or in the evening, and I'm not going anywhere and everything. But for some reason, I couldn't really find the peace of mind and the tranquility to really start reading in the beginning. Like literally in like March, April, I didn't read a lot, like maybe sometimes in the morning, but most of the day I didn't read because my head was just filled with all these worries about the virus. Nothing was really known, and the media, like German media, was like really, of course, like making me really afraid, which was okay because it was very scary and it's still very scary. But I was like in this like city, which in Munich, which I didn't really know that well, and I didn't know that many people, and I didn't know the people I lived with. And then I was like, I kind of want a distraction, and my head, I feel like my brain is always like really active. So if I'm like really anxious, reading is really not a good activity for me because everything is really quiet, and I can like hear myself think, and I can't focus once on the page. So that was not really good circumstances. So I like watched a lot of like movies which I've watched before, a lot of series which I've watched before, like no medical series, of course, like no way where they would mention any viruses or anything pandemic related. So I watched a lot of like series like Charmed and NCIS and stuff like that from, again, I'm digressing, but I'm sorry, this is the kind of video. From like the 1990s and early 2000s where I was like, okay, there can't be mention of this anywhere near it. But then once I like kind of got out of that funk and also got a bit better, a little bit better with like the lockdowns, and you kind of got used to it a little bit. It started normalizing in your life, like, you know, pandemic shouldn't be normal, but that's how it was in 2020 and kind of still is sometimes. Um, and then I discovered this app as well, because I used to be a subscriber to Audible, but I don't support Amazon anymore. No shame to you if you use Amazon, but I try not to because, you know, Jeff Bezos and all that. I can do another video about him and about all the crazy stuff he does, and how you should not support Amazon if you can afford that, and if you can, you have the privilege to. And fortunately, that's one of the privileges that I have in my life. And so there's this app, and so it is not sponsored. I have to say that now because this is like a public video, but literally not sponsored. It's a great app. It's basically kind of like Netflix flat rate for books. So you pay a monthly rate, which for me is really great because I like skipping in between books, which was kind of the problem with Audible, because I would only also buy only things like which I have maybe listened to before, or which I knew were great stories, or which I knew I liked, like the sound of the voice of the person. And so that's why I like BookBeat, because it's really like well done, because there's like German books and there's English books, and then there's like fiction and fantasy, and there's like books about like nature and different kinds of sciences and psychology and mindfulness and wellness and like everything. Like there's basically any genre. And one of the books then I started to listen to is the Secret Life of, no, I think it's the Hidden Life of Trees, actually, by Peter Wohleben. So he's a German, and it is originally German. Funnily enough, I'm listening to it in English. And like I said, I like listening to audiobooks now because I'm reading a book, but I can, like, it's like someone telling me the story, which is really good because then I'm like, I'm not sitting in silence. And secondly, I also like, then I can do other things. If I'm like really like wanting to do something, I listen to the audiobooks while I'm doing like the dishes, I'm cooking, I'm working sometimes, or I'm coloring something, or I'm painting something, or I'm doing something else, right? Or I'm walking outside or going somewhere when you normally go somewhere. And so that's why I think that's really great. Because you can virtually listen to the audiobooks anywhere. And yes, so I think that's a great thing because I love audiobooks, and sometimes you just need someone to tell you the story. Also, I just love the voice of the person who's telling the story, like of The Hidden Life of Trees, which is super, super interesting. Yes, I'm saying interesting a lot, so I should say another word. And I was already kind of impressed with like nature, and I was like, yes, nature is like, it's very generic to say, but nature is really great. It's like really genius and ingenious. So I was like, I want to know more about this. Also, there's like a companion, there's a companion documentary on Netflix as well. Also not sponsored. Who doesn't know Netflix though? um, so it's a great documentary, and sounds like I want to read this book. And I saw on BookBeat that they have this book in English, so I'm listening to it, and it's like really astonishing and impressive, kind of what nature can do and the connections. And then there's like how the trees basically like connect with each other and basically communicate with each other, and the animals and other plants and stuff. So you should check it out. I will leave both a link to like the BookBeat website and to like the website of Peter Wohlen's book. You should read it. It's a great read. So now I've been rambling on for a long time, but that's okay. This is my video. I can do whatever I want. So now, basically, I've always loved reading, as I've mentioned several times, but there's been like an up and down. And as a child and a teenager, as I grew stronger with my reading, I wanted to basically read anything that I could get my hands on, but I didn't like I like interesting stories. So not that many classical stories yet, but I did like reading. And of course, I read all Harry Potter books in German, in English. I've reread them several times. And there were so many other. There's also like this really great German author. She's called Cornelia Funke, and she basically is a German fantasy author. There's also like one of her most famous books is Inkheart. It's a fantasy book, and it even was like made into a Warner Brothers film, I think, or something like from a big production company with like Helen Mirren and like really amazing people. So, you know, that's kind of what I was like, yay, but the book was better than the movie. So, anyway, and then as I went to boarding school in the UK, I really fell in love again with reading because I had a lot of downtime, but we didn't really have a very good internet connection, and also we had this kind of quota on our internet connection. So watching a lot of YouTube videos and movies on like streaming them was mostly not possible, and even then you would like use up your quota really quickly, and only on like Sunday evening, Monday morning you would get more internet quota. So that wasn't really, I was trying to like ration it, I guess, for when I really wanted to see something or like send along an email and stuff like that, right? So I just had a different thought, so I had to pause. And then I literally read 1 month. I read like 20 books in a month, because I always went to our school library, and I basically kind of like spent a lot of time there, because also when I moved to the UK, it was like in the middle of a term. No, it was at the beginning of a term, in the middle of the school year, basically. And so everyone was like in the middle of like exams and like things that they had already started doing. So I was like, what am I supposed to do? Sometimes I couldn't even go to the supposed lesson because it was like a revision lesson. And so it was basically not a real lesson. And they were like, yeah, you don't need to go because you don't need to revise because you're not taking these exams. So I went to the school library, and they had a really kind and really amazing librarian, like basically what you see in like some movies. She was so kind, she was so amazing. She was always like there talking to you, offering you tea, and like being like, what book do you want to read next, and like encouraging you. And it was also really great for my vocabulary, because even though I was like pretty good at the basics, I still had quite a thick German accent. And also I didn't know that many like vocabs and like broad. Okay, so where were we? I again lost my train of thought. This is gonna happen often. I was, yeah, the library. Okay, so it was not like super impressive. Like basically I went to two schools which then merged. So in the first school, it wasn't like a super impressive library like from Harry Potter or something, but it was really like cute and cozy, and they had like little reading corners. And like I said, the librarian was really amazing. So I loved it. I loved going there. I loved spending time there. And it was like really safe for me there, and I could just like do my thing. It was great. So, and yes, so I spent a lot of time there, and also then I made some friends there, which was great for my overall school like experience. And then in my second school that I went to, which because of the merger, they had a bigger library, and it was like really impressive, and it was basically its own house. And but it was very cold there on some levels, and so it wasn't as nice sometimes, I thought. So it was kind of sad. um but so and now I want to talk about something else, because again, I do love books, but I'm very picky with books, firstly. And secondly, I'm also trying to buy less new books, which, yes, I know, is like, I'm like split about it. I'm like undecided about it because I want to support like new authors, because I think there's some really great authors in the last years which really need support for people to buy like the new books, so that you're not just like buying one book and then three people buy that book again and again. But like, but sometimes I also like having secondhand books. Like there are several websites in Germany, in Europe, or over the world where you can buy secondhand books. And so for Christmas I wanted some books, and two of them I actually also got from a secondhand website from my mom. But before I get into that, what books I got, I wanted to say I'm trying to kind of like have a smallest like carbon footprint and to live more sustainable, as sustainable as it's possible for me in this situation with my money, and so on and so on. And so I'm kind of leaning towards a minimalist lifestyle in some senses, but I would say more like what Shelby from the channel Shell Bizzle says, like an eco-minimalist lifestyle. So it's not the minimalist aesthetic, it's just kind of like a mindset and like thinking about like carbon footprints and sustainability, fairness, social awareness, and these kind of things. And so, but I love having a lot of books, and as you can see, this is not my library, but it's my grandparents, and it's not even all of their books. So, it kind of is in our family to like kind of hoard them a little bit. And I think sometimes that can be really great, because I found some really good books in this library from like my grandfather, my grandmother, and just in general, it's really great to have like this kind of like memory of like things before like you had this book, or before you had the internet or something. So sometimes I'm like, if I would ever like really try to like declutter like a lot, I would never do that with books, because I already chose those books. Like there would be maybe 3 books which I could declutter, because most of the books I chose because I want to have them, I want to display them, I want to use them, I want to read them, I want to reread them 10 times. So, that's my stand on that. But if you want to do that, if you want to like say, oh, I only want to own 3 books, or just own like digital books, that's also fine. But that's just not free for me. And I have to say something again, going back to libraries. Libraries are such a great space, and I loved libraries so much since then, that I also got then a library card when I moved there in my like university town. I got a lot of books and stuff from the library as well. And then when I was in Germany, when I still went to school there, we went on a class trip to Weimar, and we visited a quite famous library there, which was beautifully amazing. It was so beautiful there, like really. It was like really lots of gold and stuff, so really beautiful. And also then again, one of my favorite presents is books. Like with books, you can always make me happy. And in this Christmas, I got 3 books from my mom, 2 of them which were also secondhand. And I do also love cookbooks, but I don't buy that many cookbooks actually. But I have some. I have some which are like actual physical books, and I have 3, I think, which are like 3 which are digital downloads or PDF from like online YouTubers or like chefs. So that's really a great thing to have on your computer, because wherever you are, you have like this assortment of like recipes on your computer. You don't need to Google it. You don't have to have a physical book with you and stuff like that. So again, back to books for the 3rd time. For Christmas, I got 3 books. So, and I have them with me. And so the first one I got is a book which is in German. It's called 365 Days of Nature, oder 365 Tage Natur, fühlen, schmecken, entdecken. So tasting, feeling, and exploring. And it's so beautiful. This is basically also secondhand. My mother bought this for me. It's like basically flawless. So I don't even think the person who sold this like really used this or like had this for a long time. So shame on them. No, just joking. That's really cool that you could realize that you don't need it, because now I have it, and it brings me great joy. And I just want to quickly show some things. Like you can, like, it has really beautiful pictures, and it has this page with like text and pages with pictures and pages with text, and it is like categorized in 4 seasons, because like with nature you go with the seasons, so it's with like spring, summer, autumn, winter. And of course in spring and summer you have like quite a lot of activities, but then in winter and in like autumn you also have a lot of indoor activities to do with like foraging, and like foraging like wild herbs, or like cooking, or making stuff out of stuff that you foraged or found, like little pine cones and moss and pine needles, and like anything like that, or like get little stones and like paint them. And it's just really great. Or like recipes that you can make, or about the moon phases, or about how to tie different knots, how to like make like decorations. And it's just a really beautiful book. It has lots of beautiful nature shots, and I'm really excited to like start this year and then go throughout this year with like stuff that I found in this book, stuff that I can learn, and like that I can have like this kind of as my base for like starting to learn more and have more knowledge about nature. So that's my first book, and I don't know if this ever will be available in English, but it should be, because it's a great book. Then we have the second book is in English. It's by the publishing company, I think, and it's also called A Flow Book, The Big Book of Less, because I love the magazine Flow. And it's really cute, because I just love already the front. So cute with those little flowers and branches, and I like the like blue color. And yes, so it's called Finding Joy in Living Lighter, and it's basically a book about like every chapter is dedicated to something you should do less. So less stuff, less information, less remembering, less control, less doing, less living large, and less judgment. And there's also like these little booklets, and here fold a tiny house, and like really cute exercises and journaling prompts, and little booklets, and beautiful pictures. And basically the book is about spending more time with like thinking about life, in a sense that you want to enjoy life, that you want to live lighter, and letting go of physical, digital, mental like clutter, kind of decluttering, but also not just decluttering, but letting things go, which but not just things, but also like in items, but like mentally things, like spend less on a screen, spend more time in nature, sometimes just take days off from social media, and like try to not so be influenced by social media. It's definitely also about, like I said, digital minimalism, general minimalism. There's also a little article about someone who went on a digital detox, about more reading, less worrying, and yeah, it's just a very wholesome book, and um, I can really appreciate it, because it's not like, oh, you need to go minimalist, you need to declutter, and you need to let go of everything. You can only have like certain colors, or you can only have certain items. You can only have so much of one item. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that it is true that we cannot let the stuff start having possessed us instead of us possessing the stuff. And so this is a really great book. And then the last book is a fiction book, which I've wanted for basically a year. And it's in German, and it's from a German author. And it's called Und Max stand still in Darwins Garten. So basically it's like, and Marx stood still in Darwin's garden. So it's about Karl Marx and Charles Darwin, and they did live at the same time in the same country, although Karl Marx is technically German. He lived during a time when he had to flee to the UK, and so they could have technically met, and they knew of each other's writing. So this is not super like where they are like inserting Arthur Conan Doyle or like combine different historical figures which had no reason to meet. And so I'm really intrigued. They haven't met yet because I've only started, but I'm intrigued to see when they meet, and how they're gonna react to each other, because I feel like they would actually mesh well. So this is gonna be really cool, and I'm really looking forward to finding that out. And maybe I will then do a review of this book, because that would be fun, I think. And so this is kind of now the end of the video. I just wanted to say I think we should pressure ourselves generally less, and I feel sometimes I pressure myself. It's like I used to read so many books in 1 month, but that was when I was in school. So I feel like life has generally changed, but also for me at the moment, technically I have free time, but there's so many things I need to do, and I don't always have also the mental capacity. Like I have the free time and no one else is here, and I'm like completely relaxed, but I'm so tired that I don't want to read and I don't want to listen to this audiobook. But sometimes you just want some mindless entertainment, or you just want to sleep or something like that. So you should not pressure yourself. You should, if you feel like a fatigue and kind of burnout, you should do something about that, and then try to like motivate yourself again in a non-pressuring way, which is what I'm trying to do, because I love Goodreads. But last year I also kind of pressured myself. I set a really high bar at that like reading challenge, which was really bad because I didn't really read, like I said, that many books. So I read maybe like 10, which some of them I then reread as well and stuff like that. So I feel like we should not pressure ourselves, be kind to ourselves, and just enjoy the experience and enjoy the book that we're reading. Even if it takes us a year to read one book, I think that's still great, as long as you like really know what you're reading and you're enjoying the story, and you can like relate the story, not just like going through it and like I need to read this book because I'm on this reading challenge, I want to read 20 books, and then you only have read 10 or 15. You're like, okay, now I need 5 more, but I don't matter one. That's not for me what reading should be. It should be also about like information and enjoyment and entertainment. And so I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it useful or good or entertaining. Just let me know. Give it a thumbs up, comment, whatever. Just let me know if you like this kind of content, and I will see you soon.